All right, welcome to the first episode of Libel, the Bible.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Rusty. And today is the first episode where we are going to be talking about the Bible. We have been diligently reading.
Diligently, I read it this morning.
Diligently taking notes.
Too many notes, maybe.
A lot of notes. And we are here and we are ready to discuss Genesis.
We are here.
Chapters 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it is creation.
Creation.
So, Scott.
Yeah.
Before we get to Genesis.
Yeah.
How do you think creation came into being?
Okay, with all its flaws and not flaws, all its missing parts and everything, I'm a big Big Bang Theory kind of guy. I don't know where the stuff from the Big Bang came from. I don't know what the Big Bang was contained in beforehand. I don't know any of that, but I'm going with the Big Bang Theory until and I'll let that evolve and we'll see.
All right.
What about you, man?
I completely agree. I believe in the Big Bang Theory. There's theories about what happened before the Big Bang, like quantum soup, this, that. But I don't know that we need to go. I mean, yes, we do need to go back eventually so we have an understanding. But for the purposes of my belief in creation, I don't feel the need that it needs to be explained, well, what preceded the Big Bang. To me, creation started with the Big Bang, and here we are.
Yeah, I don't need to see the prequels yet, man. George Lucas will come out with it eventually. You know?
We can wait. They're going to ruin the whole Big Bang.
right. Yeah, this sucks. This is yeah.
All right. Bullshit.
Yeah. So, how do we do this? I mean, Genesis. It's a big topic.
Genesis 1. We just we dive into it because we believe in the Big Bang. We believe that galaxies formed and stars, the stardust, and the star secretion and planets formed. And
it says secretion or accretion?
Both. And so meteors bombing like fucking rocks and water and all that shit leading to...
no joke,
so
man.
That's what we believe, right? Over 4.5 billion years, like the Earth, blah, blah, blah. We've been around for about 200,000 years or so as we are in our current form.
You mean our race, or the human race?
The human race, yes, the human race, 200,000 years. It's basically like a postage stamp at the top of the Empire State Building when compared...
Right. So I'm going to say this. So we're not discussing anything before 13.8 billion years ago, right? It's just like, no. I don't know what's going on past that point.
I had an acid trip once where I'm pretty sure I figured out what happened, like...
Fleeting, though, right? Like
13.8 right before that moment. But I don't know if that was an acid trip.
And the image got away from you, right? It's like, fleeting. Yeah.
It's all gone.
All right, so sounds like a song somebody should write.
When I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse.
So Genesis. What were your overall thoughts on Genesis? You first time, right?
First time.
Never read it. Like
First
completely
time.
blind, didn't know what to expect.
First time.
I mean, did you know that it was going to be like on the first day, on the second day?
Yeah, no, I always heard on day one, let there be light. I always heard that, obviously. I had no idea what was going on the other days.
What happened on the first days?
Let there be light. He declared light was good, made light and dark, day and night. Good start, right?
That's the first day.
First day.
Light's good.
Yep. All right, so let's go to the second day. He put a dome in the waters to separate the waters, and he called the dome sky.
I mean, now that I think about it, Tom Hanks was able to survive on that island without light for quite some time.
Without light?
He didn't get fire immediately.
I have made fire!
Whoa, but there was light.
Oh, from the moon. That's right. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. He was in perpetual nighttime on that
No,
island?
you're right. You're right.
What the hell are you talking about?
We'll just cut that out.
Yeah, let's just
Cut
cut
that
that out in
Cut that
post.
out. Yeah.
In post. I like saying in post. All right, so he put a dome to separate basically the waters of space from the earth. And then day 3, he gathered the waters and he created the seas and the earth. It's good. We need earth.
He gathered the waters. What do you think that means? He gathered. He brought them together.
Now, do you think, did he just like by mind?
If you gather, like they had to be scattered. So he gathered them.
Or everything was water and he pulled it all together to reveal the land.
But if everything is water, why do you have to pull it together? It's already pulled together if that's what it...
I have a more interesting question. When he gathered, did he actually take huge hands, by our perception, everything's relative, huge hands and actually gather the water up, or he just thought about it and it happened?
Well, maybe he didn't have to use his hands physically, except in the sense that like every superhero needs to do a hand motion in order to use telekinesis.
Right, because casting spells would be bullshit if we didn't actually see the...
Right, so it can't just be coming from your mind, like your hands must be the antenna that directs like this energy. So maybe he did that. Because I don't want to skip ahead.
Hey, you like skipping ahead. All right, so at the end of day 3, we had earth and sea, but the earth was barren, so he put vegetation on the earth, day 3. Okay, good. So day 4, he put lights in the dome of the sky. The sun and the moon, basically. Mm-hmm. The sun would rule the day, the night would rule the night, the moon would rule the night, which I don't understand because he declared, let there be light, and it was day and night on day 1, so why it seems redundant.
There's a contradiction.
Yeah, well, it's not really a contradiction. It's like, you did it twice, dude.
I mean, that's a contradiction,
redundancy is good.
If there was light earlier, now you're saying that he created light now also.
Right. Okay, fine. We'll let it go. It's early in the book, right? Like it's like season 1. Yeah.
It's not even. It's like the first 10 minutes of the first episode.
Right. Which are usually awful. So day 5, he created sea
creatures. He's finding his footing. Like the character hasn't fully developed.
Riker hasn't grown a beard yet.
Yeah.
So on day 5, he created sea creatures and
Picard
birds.
still has the hair like around his right.
Yeah, like the crown, like embrace your male pattern baldness, man. On day 5, he creates the sea creatures and the birds. I mean, it's a weird
combination.
Yeah,
like
weird,
why birds and sea creatures, not like land animals and birds or
what the hell what were birds eating? Well, they created vegetation earlier, so
it was vegetation. Some seabirds eat like fish and whatnot.
Sure. And they said, be fruitful and multiply. Right, cool.
He said that to the fish and the sea animals. Why did he have to say it? Did he say it?
With his big hands? Did he talk with his hands a lot?
God's Italian.
Hey!
Yeah. All right, day 6 is where it really gets interesting. He creates land animals. Oh, can't have land animals without a human. So he creates a human. And he says, you have dominion over all the animals. And he created male and female in this story.
So by dominion, does that mean...
You're the master. You're the primary.
It wasn't sexual. He has dominion over them. So is he allowing man to do anything he wants to these animals?
I mean, I guess he gave it's man's
dominion.
Call, right? It's man's call at this point. So... anything that happens from man, you can't get too mad.
There's no rule, right? Like God hasn't said to him, you cannot. So you're saying he created man, and there's all these animals, and he says you have dominion over them, right?
Yeah.
Is there a woman yet?
Well, yes. In this story, yes. He created male and female on day 6, which contradicts kind of the next story we're going to get into.
Wait a second. In the part where he tells man that he has dominion over animals, has woman been created yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So let's skip over to day 7. Now, here's my first, what I know of the Bible. I was told day 7 was the day of rest. It clearly says he finished the work he started. He finished it on day 7, and then he took a break.
Right.
So he went in for like a half day, went into the office, answered some emails, whatever, did what he had to do. Not a big day. And then he came home and he put his feet up. So
it wasn't a full day.
Right. So I mean, listen, I'm not for this kind of labor regime. Like he did, he should probably join a union so he didn't have to do this. But
well, Carlin has a skit about how selfish we are as humans because we pray to God on his day off. Like that's when most of the prayers occur. If it's true that God did in fact check his emails, run into the office in the morning, we do go to church in the morning.
Oh, shoot.
We pray in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And then we take the rest of the day off. So technically, God isn't off in the morning because he didn't rest until later.
Right. So he might have announced that I'm going to rest on day 7, but if you need me, I got you. Like I'm off, but if some shit breaks out,
he handed out like an emergency number.
Nice job. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So that's the synopsis of the 7-day creation story.
Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any problems?
I mean, common arguments I think we all have is like, how long was a day? Obviously, was it a 24-hour day? Maybe not. Probably not. I mean, our days are measured by the rotation of the Earth, which is a 24-day cycle. But there was no light when he started this, so was maybe a day not quite 24 hours? Like, it's a God day. I mean, it can't be a Gregorian day, right?
This is an excellent question because this is what it begs to be answered. Is the Bible to be taken literally or not? So a 2017 Pew Research survey said that 39% of Christians in this country take the Bible literally as the word of God.
What's the percentage?
39% of American Christians.
That's a lot.
That's
39 out of 100.
That's four out of 10 people.
Mm.
So if you line up 100 Christians, 40 of them will tell you that they believe God literally said, "Let there be light," and God literally gathered the waters.
Wait, can I stop for a second? He literally said, "Let there be light," but if he says that in a forest and no one's around to hear it, do we know he said it?
Well, I would say that they would probably argue that, well, the inspiration for the person that wrote those words must have come directly from the Creator. So your question leads to, whether or not you take the words literally. Did you take Genesis 1 literally?
I think when I first started reading it, I was absolutely taking it literally. I wanted to see how if I'm taking this literally, this doesn't make any sense. But now if you can argue that the days aren't 24 hours and waters meant space or sea, not taking it literally, it's metaphorical. It's we just paint. I don't know. When I first went into it, absolutely I took it literally, and obviously that might be a mistake.
But whose point of view were you reading it from? Were you reading it from the point of view of this is God's word, or were you reading it as this is a creation story written by man with no contact from God? Because that's important too.
Good question. I think I definitely was reading it like it was fact, not somebody's interpretation of the fact, because I expect to read fact. I don't expect, to read somebody's version of fact.
So you're reading it from the perspective of this is the word of God.
I guess if that's what fact equals, yes, the word of God.
Like this was written because it was God's will that this is written, and this is how God wants it written.
Yeah, I did take it that way.
Yeah, I don't know that I take it that way. I look at it more as a creation myth that was most likely written as part of a deal in order for a group of people to have territory, and they needed to create a code.
Yeah, I didn't really see any codes here. I didn't really gather that.
I mean, I guess it's impossible to say that based on chapters 1 through 4, but I have lived in a society for 48 years, so I am aware of the Bible. I am aware of all, disparate parts, a portion here, a portion there, overhearing something about this, or even a movie, or just popular culture. You know Bible stories.
I'm sorry, 48 years? How old are you?
48.
How am I? Really? Okay, so getting back to something we talked about in episode 0, who wrote Genesis? It was just somebody wrote the story?
Nobody knows.
Okay, all right, so we can't really take it so literally.
Nobody knows the name of the person who wrote it, or even when it was written.
All right, so I'll address one more point. On day 6, when he created humankind, it's written we're going to create humankind in our image.
Mm-hmm.
And he created male and female, and I was like, who's he talking to? But you're saying it's probably he's not talking to anybody; he's talking to himself, I guess.
God is just referring to himself as us, maybe because he's everything. Have there not been any Star Trek villains that refer to themselves as us, even though it's apparently a singular entity?
The Borg.
The Borg.
I think you're probably thinking of Q, but is this a Star Trek podcast all of a sudden? I like that idea too. But okay, so what do you think of the 7-day creation story?
I think that it's made up. I think that it's a fairy tale.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, you think that story's crazy? Because there's another story.
so again, look,
There's another story.
it's funny because we approach this from completely different points of view. Like I strolled in here and I was like,
and he does stroll, by the way.
this is obviously fucking retarded. Like, we're going to skip over this section and get to like some beefy stuff.
And what did I say? No way.
And Scott has like basically a Tolstoy length like notebook filled with shit about Genesis,
I
like
did take notes.
one.
I did take notes, yes.
Because he is so angry about it.
First of all, there's no anger. I took notes because I can't
There's a
remember
lot of
shit.
questions. Scott's
I
got
can't remember
questions.
I can't remember shit, and I'm just thinking, this is the first episode. I don't want to miss it. You can't walk into the middle of Game of Thrones and say, what the fuck is going on?
I
You
know,
need to
but you had so many questions, and really, when you analyze them, if we were sitting right now, and you were like paying me by the 45 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever therapy is, 50, and I analyze your
like you don't
questions.
know.
There is anger in those questions. Scott is very upset by this whole creation story. It's evident. Things do not compute for him.
Is this what's called projection? Like, there's no anger here, man.
He's upset over the wording. He's upset over the hypocrisy from day to day.
I've never mentioned hypocrisy.
All right. So, what do you think about the 6 days of creation?
It was 6.5.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, he
6 and a
said
quarter.
he was finishing what he was doing. So, all right. So, I think we're good to move past that because there's a better story.
What's the better story?
Apparently, the beginning of the Bible has 2 creation stories. It's like choose your own adventure.
Another creation story.
Another. And I don't know if it
creation
contradicts or complements the 7 days.
Right. Who knows where they got this part from?
I don't know. You want to get into it? It's the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
Well, look. If you're taking it from the point of view that God wrote this, right? It's God's word. Think about it. God must have done so much goddamn fucking Adderall that week that in a week he creates like everything, right? Like it's a
Adderall is what, the hyperactivity?
Yeah.
Okay.
It helps you like focus up,
Okay.
And if you don't need it, like that shit really helps you get things done, especially if you snort
Is that the drug they said college kids were taking it to try and get an
Yes.
advantage for test taking and stuff? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It helps you study. It helps you clean. It helps you do whatever the fuck you need to do.
You're talking like an authority on it.
So I've never done Adderall,
okay.
but I've been around people that have told me stories about Adderall. So God, in 6 days, goes on this spree where he creates everything,
It's a
right?
manic episode.
Then he fucking crashes on that 7th. He thinks on the 7th day, he wakes up, he's like, I'm going to get some more shit done today. But he's like, fuck this, and crashes, right? Another version of creation comes from God being like, wait a second.
Wait.
I think I fucked up some shit like that first part that I told you. Like the
Reboot.
light. Yeah. So he had to fix some continuity errors.
So let me saying that he was burnt out on the 7th day. And that's when most people pray, you said, right? Most people go to church on the 7th day.
Sure.
And a lot of people's arguments like, why weren't your prayers answered? Dude was knocked out on the couch.
Yes.
Fuck. So wait a minute. Shouldn't you pray on like a Tuesday? Because he was motivated on Tuesday. He got some shit done on a Tuesday.
Now you got to put that shit out to everybody. Now everybody knows.
And he doesn't want that either. Like, dude, man, give me a break. What the hell did I create here?
So what is another account of creation?
Okay, so apparently, when God was done making the earth and the heavens, he planted a garden in the east.
In the east.
In the east.
In the east on the earth?
East of what? I don't know. The Bible says in the east.
In the east.
If you don't have a starting point, what's east and what's west? I don't know. Okay. So he goes, and he filled it with trees
Well, I
and
mean,
plants.
in
of
a
all
sense, everything is east.
but everything's west as well. cartography has not been invented yet, so we don't really know. But yeah. So, he planted all these trees.
Just the knowledge of all creation.
Yes, that's summed up, but not cartography.
All right.
So, so he creates his garden in the east, and apparently fills it with all trees of every kind.
Every kind of
Every
tree.
kind.
Every kind.
Fruit, plants, all that
Because
stuff.
the soil, just accommodates all kinds of vegetation.
Of course, yeah. It's big. Listen, big oil hasn't been there. Nobody's fracking. Nobody's effing up the environment yet. It's like it's got that new environment smell.
It's Avatar.
Yeah, I never saw that actually.
I never saw it either.
Oh, okay. Those tall blue people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So while he was doing that, he apparently was like, somebody's got to take care of this garden. So he took some dust and made man. He made man out of dust.
Out of dust.
And when I read that, I was like, oh, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Created some rivers.
But that's weird, though. Why would he do that? Like, he created everything else with his magic hands, but, like, man, he couldn't just, like, create with his magic hands?
I'm going to ask you a more important question. Why did he create man in the first place? You don't have to answer it because it explains it. It explains it. He created man to till and keep the garden. And he goes, oh, by the way, you can eat anything here, but there's 2 super delicious trees you better not touch. Well, he was specific about one tree. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. So I don't know if that tree contained all knowledge or just the knowledge of what's good and what's evil.
Right.
Or the concepts of good and evil.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what he did. And then, but man was alone. Couldn't keep up with the workload, apparently. So, God created animals. And said, okay, I'm going to bring you some things. You can name them. He let man name the animals. So man's like, oh, God, I'm sweating in this field and everything, but hey, I get to name animals, so I must be pretty important. I'm like pretty high up on this chain. And he named all the cattle, the chickens.
So basically, God's got this guy. He puts him at the counter of McDonald's. No one else is working in McDonald's. He's got to work the counter and the fryers. And God says, I'm going to make you the manager, though.
And yeah, now
you're the manager. Yeah. And you think you're like super important.
Yeah.
But you're doing like 8 different jobs.
I got it better than that guy, but then you realize there is no other
there is
guy.
No other.
I'm the only guy.
Yeah. I'm managing. Wait. Who am I managing?
Who's ordering the food?
Who's he tilling for?
Who
is he tilling for?
Does service still suck if nobody's ordering?
This might go back to when God is like, our? When he says our? Maybe God's got like Adam being a slave.
Who's Adam? Because I haven't seen the word Adam yet.
Oh, well, you said man, and first man is Adam.
Yeah, so we know. So he went through all the animals, couldn't find anybody to help him. So God goes, man, this guy's hard to please. And he knocks him out. He roofies him, passes out, reaches in with his big hands, and pulls out a rib. Heals him up, fills that void with some flesh, and he creates a woman.
So were we supposed to have an extra rib?
That's what I was trying to wonder, because they specifically say he filled the void with flesh. Maybe that's a spleen that nobody needs.
But our rib cage is
they're even, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there's an odd number of ribs, which was odd. Is that why the name odd is odd? Because it's odd to have an odd number of things?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I think that's an odd question.
All right. So he goes, yo, here's a woman. And
so wait, he knocked him out. He didn't just go to sleep. He describes
that he put him into a deep sleep.
He put him into a deep sleep. God's like Bill Cosby.
You know anything about Spanish fly?
So yeah, he knocked him out, made it, and then he goes, and they were naked and unashamed. Because they didn't know they should be ashamed.
All right, so he
the
uses his magic hands. He pulls out the rib. Now we've got woman. So we've got man and we've got woman.
Yeah,
and they're both naked.
They're both naked.
Okay.
They don't mess around though, because apparently maybe they're not. They don't know like those.
Well, they haven't they don't have knowledge. God doesn't want them to have knowledge.
Bingo. So now he's got companionship, I guess, but not companionship because helper. He used the word helper.
Right. Well, you can't really have companionship because if you don't have knowledge, what will you be companions about? Like, there's nothing to talk about. You're just 2 fucking idiots that don't know shit.
You're like an old married couple, like, well, right off the bat.
Not even, because at least an old married couple had experiences, and when they're sitting together at a dinner, they can look at each other in the eyes, and one of them can think, this fucking bitch wasted 30 years of my fucking life with her bullshit.
Whoa. All right. Yeah. So anyway, she was like, I know all your stories, but there actually were no stories. Crazy.
So like, right. They no knowledge. So, all right. So they're together and they're naked.
So there was a line in there that we can revisit later or not, or we can just wash right over.
That's a good metaphor, by the way, for what they were. They were completely naked. They were
clean slates.
They were naked in the world.
Clean slates. Innocent kids.
Do you think they were like Barbie and Ken originally, like no genitalia, like when he first made them?
Well, then, how?
Like
would
if there was no
differentiate them?
sex, like I would think like the genitalia would grow later, after what happens with the original sin. But like if they're born and they don't have knowledge, why would they need the genitalia? They might not have genitalia.
So do you think not only did they not have genitalia, they had like really unattainable body goals? Like do you think like nobody could ever look like Eve with that little ass waist?
Yeah, I think that is definitely, if Instagram was around back then they would both have at least two followers.
Oh, right, because there's not that many people, so that's a big percentage of the population. So you think Eve was hot?
I think that probably not. I think that no woman from like 200,000 years ago was hot.
But in fairness, the dude probably wasn't hot
I
either,
know
right?
beauty standards have changed, and I know like back in like the 1700s, like bigger women were considered beautiful, and then
because
like,
they had food
and things like change right throughout like society. But I think like 200,000 years ago, I bet you there weren't really like a lot of attractive women. I bet you women, well, attractive to me, I bet you that they were like bruisers. Because you had to be hardy. You had to be like fucking hardy to survive.
Because you were a helper. You weren't a companion. You were a helper.
I think the image that we have of Adam and Eve like is not the reality. Like I imagine Adam was probably like
really
more
have
like
an image.
more like a apey guy, because he's newborn and
They
like
kind of make him like a skinny
he's the
jean wearing
prototype
kind of guy, right?
like human, right? But he's right. He's not like an Abercrombie model, like with a shaved chest. Like he's probably got
like he's
fucking,
not from Williamsburg, man. Right?
and like he's from what is now considered the Middle East, which is the desert. So like he's probably has hair on his body to protect against like the sand. You know what I mean? Like the image that we have of Adam and Eve is not at all what Adam and Eve were.
I'm sorry. I have my fair share of chest hair, and I have never been caught in a sandstorm. Are you sure that's what that's about?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I might just be talking out of my ass.
But he says something about a man will leave his mother and father and cling to his wife and join flesh.
No, not join flesh. What? It's a great line. We shouldn't skip over it because I think this is the first. This is the world's first porn, right? Genesis 2:24.
Okay, read
This is, you tell me, this is erotic literature. I mean, really. A man leaves his father and his mother and clings to his wife, and they become one flesh.
That's dirty.
So he
That is
clings
so
to his
dirty.
wife, and they become one flesh. I mean, we all know what he's saying.
He's saying the moment your son gets laid, he's out. He's leaving.
So this was the second account of creation, right? Or what's it called? Another account of creation.
Yeah, and so I meant to ask you, the version of the Bible we're reading, are both these accounts like in every Bible?
I think yes.
So before we go further, and like there's a lot more to this story, it's really fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
So is this compatible with the first story? It's just squeezed into day 6? Or is it a complete like J.J. Abrams reboot?
It could be like an addendum.
Oh, we forgot to mention on day 6 this happened, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good with that. So I'm not ready to discredit that literally in the first chapter there's 2 different stories.
I think it's like, look, in case you thought I was bullshitting you with all that shit in the first 6 days, let me prove to you that I wasn't bullshitting you. See, I took the rib from Adam and then made Eve, because there were some questions earlier on about my legitimacy, but here's like how I did it. I'm going to give you some detail.
Yeah. We've determined they're in this garden, the 2 of them, naked and unashamed. I think that's on a Discovery Channel. But don't eat from this tree. And then some serpent comes around, man.
Do we know where this tree is?
I want to say it's like right in the center of like
It's
the garden.
absolutely.
It's like the focal point.
It says it. It's in the center.
It's
of
on the
garden.
postcard. Like if you go to Garden of Eden, it's in the postcard, right? It's the postcard you send out.
This is it. Right.
Okay.
All roads lead to the fucking tree of knowledge in the center of the Garden of Eden.
I want to keep stressing the tree of knowledge of good and evil because I don't know
the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's good.
because I'm not ready to say like this is the tree of like all kinds of knowledge.
Okay.
You can eat all this shit. Don't touch that tree.
So they can
Don't eat
have
from that tree.
anything in the garden. They have dominion over all animals. They can name all animals. They can do whatever the fuck they want. But this one thing in the center of this beautiful garden, that's like the prettiest, most beautiful thing, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, don't fuck with.
Right. It's Christy Brinkley pulling up next to Clark W. Griswold on the highway while his wife is sleeping, saying, "Yeah, no, you can't. Anything you want. You got a great life. Anything you want. Not her." But he put temptation right there, right? So now the serpent comes around, asks the woman, "Yo, what you eating? Why aren't you eating that from that tree? Did God tell you you can't touch that tree? He's fucking with you, man." What does she do? She grabs some fruit off that tree. Her and her husband share it.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
All of a sudden,
Who ate it first? Do you remember? Did it say?
she did.
She ate it first.
And he was
him?
with her. He was with
him.
her.
They're
He
together.
was with her. So like it's a joint B&E. Like they're partners in crime.
So she goes, gets him. She's like, yo. She tells him that she was talking to a snake?
She said, "So I was talking to the guy in the gym today, and he said you ain't a man. What do you mean you're afraid to eat that? Yo, am I married to a bitch? Yo, we're gonna go eat that fucking tree, that fruit off that tree."
That makes sense.
And what did he do?
Right, because she is like a burly woman, you know what I mean?
Right.
So she would be at the gym. She would be intimidating.
Right, and she's probably a little tougher than him. She's got her full rib.
Well,
He's
you know,
missing a rib.
women develop sooner, like they grow sooner. So if they were born at around the same time,
so they're young. Yeah,
She's
she's-
probably like fucking towering over
Yeah,
at him.
little girls kick little boys' asses.
Makes sense.
And if we want to take it to a more adult level, he's probably like, I better do what she says. She's the only ass around.
Yes.
Like, right? Like,
Of
what are you going to
course.
do?
Of course.
They eat it. And then all of a sudden they look at themselves and they're like, oh my God, we're naked. They get the fig leaves, they sew them together. But then, ho, 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 here comes God, like trouncing through the...
He's walking. He's
walking.
walking through the garden. He's
Where
like,
did I get ho, ho, ho from?
that's Santa Claus.
I'm thinking Jack and the Beanstalk.
It's
though.
a oh right. I'm sorry.
does
Jack.
he say ho, ho, ho?
No, it's fee fi. Fo,
Oh, yeah,
fum.
yeah. Do re mi, yeah. He's looking around, he can't find them.
You think God is like he's like one of those old guys with the beard where he's like strolling through the garden with his hands like locked together behind his back and like slowly, contemplatively like just strolling through the garden. By the way, I'm sorry. How soon after Adam and Eve were created did the snake tempt Eve?
Serpent.
The serpent. How soon? Do you know? Like, there's no timeline given, right?
No.
Do you think like they had been spending time there?
You know, they don't say, but I would assume, life was pretty good. Like, they were just doing their thing.
But
And
now that I'm thinking about it, I think like later on when Adam talks to God about it, he talks about Eve like he kind of doesn't even know her, like she's new. So it may have been like fairly quickly. Like it may have been pretty soon, like after they were born.
so, wait. You read that, like, jumping ahead?
No, it's like in the section like where it's in the part that you're talking about right now. So God is strolling through the garden, and what happens?
Right. And so they hide. Where are you? And they come out, and
They're
he's
like they're basically like two teens fucking on the beach at like spring
Kinda got
break,
caught.
and like a cop shows up, and like,
Ah,
they're like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
shit.
Yeah. So basically, God's like, what are you doing hiding? He goes, well, we were kind of embarrassed because we're naked. And he said, who told you were naked? So he goes, so did you eat from that tree? And dude,
In the center of the garden.
I absolutely told you not to. Dude snitches on his girl immediately. It was her, and it was even worse.
Yeah.
Not only was it her, it was that woman you made me freaking deal with.
So that's the part where like it made me feel like she's almost new to him. Like they don't really know each other yet. Like the way he talked about her to God gave me the feeling that she's still like foreign to him, and they hadn't spent much time together.
See, I got the impression that maybe he should have been a little tougher. I think he kind of like knew like he was going to get a smackdown.
Yeah, but we've already
And-
established Eve is the mature one. She's the one that's gonna like take risks, and she's got the balls in the relationship.
We've established that.
He's a cuck. He's a beta male cuck.
I have no idea what that term means. So, so he snitches on her. So now God says, you know what? Everybody gather around.
We're having a conference.
Yeah.
Tribal
meeting.
council. It's tribal council.
Like, and you're about to get voted off the fucking island,
Right.
people. So he tells the serpent, you are the lowest form of life. You are now going to walk around on your belly the rest of your life. No legs, no arms. You're going to scurry around your belly and eat insects, whatever the hell whatever snakes do. So what did the serpent look like before that?
It looked like probably a massive centipede, like what a snake would look like with like all these legs underneath.
It talks?
I mean, it talked to Eve, right? Or do you think it was more like mental telepathy?
Or is Eve full of shit? She wanted to eat the fruit and she blamed her imaginary serpent friend.
If this is real,
Yes.
if the Garden of Eden really existed and there's an Adam and Eve, God put them in a place where he made all vegetation. Psilocybin mushrooms.
What?
Psilocybin mushrooms.
Those the magic mushrooms?
Magic mushrooms, right? That's a real fungus. And so there's a million kinds of plants that Eve could have eaten that made her fucking... Yo, what's the first thing people see when they like trip on peyote or like serpents and fucking...
If what I watched when I watched the Doors movie...
Chasing the
definitely a serpent,
dragon,
there's definitely
you
a
know what I
snake.
mean?
It's miles long, that snake.
So it's very possible.
She was tripping.
It's very possible almost every story in the Bible is going to come from someone in the desert near some plant that all of a sudden has this vision. It's either that or they've been out starving for like 6 weeks and then a vision comes to them. Really? You were starving without food or
the
water
sun.
And a vision came to
And
you?
you ate something growing out of
Wow.
like a cow poop? You ate
So,
oh my
Eve,
God, Eve was
Eve
tripping.
may have been tripping, and she went to Adam, and she was like, yo, man, this fucking serpent. And what does Adam know? Because what Adam knows is God created everything. He put shit. So, like a talking serpent sounds reasonable to Adam.
Yeah. Oh my God. I never considered Eve was tripping. Well, I never considered Eve at all until like 3 days ago.
I mean, I consider everyone's tripping.
And he says to Eve, you're going to have the worst childbirth pangs like you can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause right there. Like, damn, dude. Like, that's rough. That's rough.
So that is the origin of labor pains. Labor pains come from Eve convincing Adam to eat from the tree. And so women now... were menstrual cramps a part of that? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember. But either way, it's crazy. So he heaps this physical pain upon not only her, but all future women.
I didn't eat that shit.
He dooms women. And what else does he do?
And apparently because you have bad judgment, your husband will rule over you.
Your husband will rule over you because you're too fucking stupid.
You made such bad decisions.
Yeah.
Not the fact that...
You can't be trusted.
Yo, Obi-Wan Kenobi said, I think, in the original Star Wars,
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows it?
the woman's like a master manipulator. He's just a suckerhead. Right? He just said, okay, honey, I'll eat the fruit.
As punishment, God should have put a leash around Adam and given the fucking handle to Eve.
At that point, she got named Eve, by the way. She wasn't named Eve until
Right.
this point.
Because Adam got to name everything, and
Right.
Adam named
And by
her
the way,
Eve.
Adam's name has not been mentioned yet. God says, now for your punishment, you need to go. Garden of Eden is not for you. You need to go walk. And not only did they throw them out because they feared they came back, they were going to come back. Oh no, let me stop. God had one of these weird conversations with himself again. I thought it was with somebody else, and he was like, they have now become like us,
Right.
With the knowledge.
Right.
What's next? They're going to eat from the tree of life and live forever, like us.
So you're saying there's some alien shit going on?
I did not say alien,
But
I said
that's
is
where
God,
you're headed.
Is God talking to someone else, a fellow God, or you're saying he's talking to himself?
I'm saying it's highly possible that whoever wrote it may have been dealing with extraterrestrials.
Wow.
So
This might be
again, I
yeah.
think God refers to himself as our.
Okay, so now
He is our.
So now he's knowledgeable, and now they're like us. They're like me. My creation is now like me. It's like the robots taking over from the humans. I got to get him out of here, for not only they like me, now they live forever like me.
He's threatened by them.
Yeah, he can. And by the way, why'd you put those trees there in the first place?
But I mean, just because they have. Oh, so you think that
God was like, get out of the garden because not only are you knowledgeable now, if you eat from the other tree, you'll live forever. That's a threat.
But what's the so okay? So even if they're aware of things, even if they lose all their innocence, even if they know like how creation came to be, do they have the power that God? Do they have the magic hands? Is that the knowledge too?
I'm going to say
Because
this.
it doesn't seem like it.
I think humanity has always been cursed with the question of like, why are we here? I feel we're here to learn all that is learnable, figure out whatever we can, and almost like ring God's doorbell, walk up to him and go, yo, that's all you got? So I think maybe, no, we don't have the power of God yet because we're infants in this story.
We were created by a puzzle to solve the puzzle.
It's very Westworldy.
I mean, the puzzle is the universe, and the universe created life in order to figure out the universe.
I think God maybe at this point.
It's quite narcissistic.
But you had mentioned something off air that what the tree of knowledge represented.
Innocence.
Right, and that didn't occur to me. God was protecting them by telling them not to eat that fruit.
I like where you were going. So anything is possible in a made-up story with all the details left out. Any theory can be made plausible, right? So on Reddit, there's like a subreddit, fan theories, and like somebody will have a fan theory about The Matrix, or somebody will have a fan theory about a Spider-Man movie where it's like, theory is that Spider-Man is really J. Jonah Jameson dressed up as Mary Jane Watson. And then they have like this, it doesn't matter. And then they have this whole explanation. And then they'll use like parts of the movie to like plug it in. It's like a big conspiracy. And it's like, well, yeah, all this is possible because it's fiction. It's all made up. So, of course, you know what I mean? Like, yes.
Jar Jar Binks is a Jedi.
Right, exactly. Like, or Jar Jar Binks is really a Sith. Right. Like, of course, like it's made up. And I'm sure George Lucas, when he sat down to write that particular one, wasn't even thinking about that. So, like,
it's like no action figure rights. That's all he was
so
thinking about.
when you ask me about like, you know, the tree of knowledge, it could be anything. You know, we can create a plausible theory out of anything. So I originally thought it's innocence. God said don't eat this, and then when they did, they lost all their innocence and everything that goes with that. They saw the world for what it was. You know what I mean? So a child doesn't understand what murder is. And neither did Adam and Eve. And when they ate from that tree, they began to understand what that is.
So as a parent, you could understand, like, maybe God was just shielding his children, like, not to grow up too fast.
So the question becomes, was the tree there for them eventually?
I mean, there's an outside world that you try and shield children from until they're ready to and have to deal with it. So maybe this story isn't as bad as I thought, because I thought like he was like really like, now I'm going to punish everybody.
No, it's terrible. The story is terrible because what does he do? He kicks them out. So he fucking creates these kids and tells them, he sets a boundary and he says, you can not do this one thing. And they do it.
Time out. Isn't that what parents do?
A parent's job is to instill information into their children in order to, one, protect their children. Because children will find a way to kill themselves 100 times a day when they're born if it's not for the parents. So your job is to train them to steer away from certain things. And your job is to teach them as best as you can in order for them to be safe and in order for them to grow up and be happy. So God creates this utopian paradise for Adam and Eve, and he says you can't eat from this tree. Now, I told you what the parent's job is. A child's job is to test boundaries because that's how they learn.
Yeah.
You know, even animals, when they play with each other and they start nipping at each other, they nip harder and harder until they get nipped back, and that's when they learn.
Right.
So that's what parenting and being a child are like. The parent teaches and the child tries to see where the boundaries are. You know, maybe not even purposefully, but just like they're still learning the boundaries. So as a parent, you're expecting shit's gonna happen. You know, you're expecting that a shirt is gonna be flushed down a toilet because a kid wanted to see what can happen.
So wait,
and then your whole plumbing gets backed up.
And you're not immediately throwing the kid out of the house into the world?
So there it is.
All right.
So that is...
Punishment might be a little harsh.
That's the punishment of God. So you could say God was looking out for Adam and Eve by like wanting to protect their innocence, you know, by having them not eat from the tree. But the first thing that his children do that's wrong, he fucking throws them out.
But... we've determined, like, maybe this story's missing. This isn't the first thing they did. This has been building on a lot of bullshit that these kids have been doing.
Well, if it's the first thing they did, it's fucked up. And I want you to consider this also. If your dad throws you out of his house, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're still living in the world that your dad lives in. You're just not in his house. When God throws Adam and Eve out, he throws them out of paradise into complete shit. Into, like, you know, the world.
Some Mad Max shit.
He flips the world on them. He throws them into the upside down.
Oh, you didn't even watch Stranger Things.
I didn't, but I mean, I've got my fucking ear to the fucking ground. I know what's up.
All right, so he drives them out. And not only does he drive him out, he's so concerned about this tree of life that they might eat from it that he creates this magical sword that's on fire.
Yeah.
That spins.
That's fucking sick.
That does not allow anybody near the tree of, well, doesn't let these fools near the tree of
That's super
life.
cool.
That is cool. And it's like...
that's a player move. So they're out of the garden now.
Yeah.
And they have no innocence.
Right. They start bumping uglies.
So they fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well, that's some harsh language, man.
They fuck.
This
They
is
fuck.
a family show.
They fuck a lot because what
Because
else?
that's what you're hoping
What
they
else
did,
is
you
happening?
perv.
No, I mean, what else is happening?
Right. What are you going to do?
They're fucking. So they have 2 kids as a result
Mm-hmm.
of all this fucking that they're doing once they're out of the garden.
That would be Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel.
Which I've heard of my whole life. I've heard it, but I heard Cain murders Abel, but
Absolutely. It's like, you know, everybody might have heard of the Beatles, but a lot of people might not know, like, the Beatles
Right,
songs,
right.
right? So Cain and Abel is like...
you don't know Paul McCartney shot John Lennon outside Central Park. Like, you don't know that part of the story.
So Cain is the older brother. What's his occupation?
He's I guess like a farmer. Like
He
works
tills, right?
He works
He's-
the soil.
Right. Like his old man. And so what's Abel?
Abel, he manages this flock, so he's like a shepherd.
So he's a shepherd.
Right.
And they're 2 brothers, and everything seems fine.
Both equally important work.
By the way, where the fuck are Adam and Eve at this point? They seem to disappear at this point. There's
it's
not
like-
a lot of exposition going on, you know?
It's like that every episode has to show them, like, they're off screen. Like,
Yeah.
we know they're doing their thing. They're
All
doing
right.
their thing.
They didn't make the B story this particular.
Right, exactly.
There really
yeah.
is no B story.
No. I
It's
guess
just
not.
it's the A plot.
Yeah.
And the A plot is that they both love God so much, they want to give God an offering.
Okay.
And so
They go to the top of the
Cain
volcano.
is a farmer. So I'm assuming he offers God whatever he has farmed.
That's exactly what he does.
And Abel is a shepherd.
Yeah.
So he probably gives God some meat.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
And what do we find about God's culinary preferences?
God's a freaking carnivore.
So
he
he
loves the meat.
not a vegetarian.
He looks at Cain's Brussels sprouts like, get the fuck out of here with that.
He does not like Cain's shit.
Yeah.
He takes Abel's sacrifice.
And apparently makes it known. He doesn't like gracefully take it, I guess. Like, oh, thanks, I'll eat this later. Like, and then tosses it in the
And then, like, right.
or re-gifts it. Like
that would have been extremely polite. At least like accept it.
So apparently he gave some Cain some shit about that.
They walk away. Abel's like, doo. God loves me. He likes my sheep.
He's a good foot taller at this point. Like, yeah. Cain's just devastated.
Yeah, Cain doesn't feel
He's
good.
devastated. And when we talked about it earlier, I was like, well, maybe Cain's taking it a little too seriously. And then, that's God. Like,
Yeah,
shit.
God has God.
And as far as we know at this point, there's Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, and God, and that serpent. Like, that's it. That's it.
Who's
Like,
now crawling around.
Right. So you don't have to impress that jerk anymore.
Well, wait a second. Now that they're out of the garden, are all the animals still in the garden?
I don't know if all the animals were in the garden. Like, it's
It's weird. It's a weird situation.
Let's imagine, like, let's imagine the earth is there and there's different environments.
And why would God leave the garden there anyway? Why not just fucking get rid of the garden at that point? Because it's not made for anyone anymore. Well, he made it for Adam and Eve. It's kind of like, having a restaurant or a song with like a partner. And then like you're not with that partner anymore, but you still like, then you make that restaurant or song like with your next partner, like that's your thing. That's like, no, just...
Yeah, I'm really not following your logic here.
Get rid of the Garden of Eden.
Okay,
you made
fine.
it for Adam and Eve. You kicked them out. What do you need the sword for? To protect the tree.
Dope.
Just raise the Garden of Eden. It's no longer necessary. Is he like waiting for the next Adam and Eve to come along? You know what I mean? He doesn't need the garden.
We'll get into his omnipotence later.
So Cain is very upset because Cain has just been rejected by God, who he loves, right? I mean, he was giving him an offering, like a genuine offering. Like he wasn't like one of those slovenly like pigs, that like built their house out of straw or fucking whatever. Like he worked his land. He genuinely
it's not like he was on his way to God's
God.
house and stopped at the pharmacy and said, "Oh shit, I forgot to buy him something," and he bought some pharmacy gift.
He didn't find out God was in an accident and stopped off to get like fucking juji fruit, and God rejected him, so he's fucking pissed. So what does he do, Scott?
He goes, "Yo, Abel, can I see you for a minute? Where you at? I'm in the field. Come out to the field." Abel goes,
I'm gonna go.
I can't read the signals. I don't see the signs.
Yeah.
Cain murders Abel. They don't say how. A pitchfork, pretty gruesome.
It's the
shovel
first,
upside the head.
It's
I
the
hope.
first murder. I mean, he's a
It's the
farmer.
first documented murder.
There's
wait.
Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel. That's it.
So, could you imagine being responsible for 25% of the world's deaths? Like, what kind of a monster are you? You're like COVID on
Worse than
steroids,
coronavirus.
yeah.
He's the Spanish flu.
Wow.
The Black Death.
Here comes God again. Hey, what's up, Cain? Yo, where's Abel at? And Cain gets real defensive.
God's
right?
always showing up late, by the way. Like, God didn't show up when, like, Cain was raising, like, his sickle to strike fucking Abel down, Like, God waited, and then he showed up. He didn't show up when Eve was tempting Adam with the fucking fruit, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like he wants this shit to go down.
Do you think he shows up with like an oversized Slurpee in his hand? Like he's like...
I think it's the wind of God that shows up. It's like, I think it's like a wind that tickles your balls, It's like, oh, that's God right there.
I don't know where you live that wind tickles your balls, but it sounds very freedom. It sounds like freedom.
Yeah, that's God.
So now God shows up and goes, "Yo, Cain, where's your bro?"
And I'm my brother's keeper.
And by the way, I thought that line originated in New Jack City. God found out that, through the grapevine, that Cain murdered Abel, right? God punished Cain by cursing his lands. Basically, like, shit wasn't going to grow on his lands.
He turned it into the Dust Bowl.
Which is fucked up, because you didn't like what it was growing anyway. I brought you Brussels sprouts. You told me to get the fuck out of here, and then you cursed my land. Well, my land was sucky anyway.
I gotta tell you, the first 4 chapters, God is not making a great first impression on me.
He's not.
I mean, the people aren't great either. This is like one of those things where it's like you hate everybody. It's like one of those shows, where like everyone's in it. It's like Succession. Everyone's like an asshole, and like you're not supposed to like anybody, maybe.
It's like Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Everyone in that movie is an asshole. Every single person in that movie is an asshole.
It's like Do the Right Thing, where it's like you could sort of see like where everyone is coming from.
Yeah.
But then at the end, like they're all like wrong in how they
because
like,
they didn't
behave.
see where everyone else was coming from. Yeah.
That's good.
Why would a Bible? It's a Spike Lee joint. He curses his land and goes, but I can't deal with a cursed land.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go wander the earth.
Yeah.
I'm going to go fucking walk around. But if I go wander the earth, people are going to kill me. Why does he think people are going to kill him?
Because he's a killer.
Right. So he thinks everybody's a killer,
Yeah,
right? God was like, oh, no. You're not going to die. You need to suffer. So I'm going to mark you so people will know not to kill you. And by the way, who are these people? I thought there was only 4 people, now down to 3.
And I like that it's like ambiguous. Like, what does mark you mean? Like, is he gonna piss on his leg? I'm gonna mark you the way like a cat like marks territory.
Right. Am I gonna cattle prod like a what do you call that? Not a cattle prod.
Brand you.
The brand, yeah, the brand.
Am I gonna brand you or give you leprosy or like what
and
kind
it's
of
gonna
mark?
be visible? So now, all right. So now he gets marked, and he goes out into the rough world that all of a sudden these people are here, and like first of all, why are people looking to kill him? Like obviously he has nothing. And if they see the mark, are they going to say, oh, shoot, that's the mark. We can't kill him. Did they drop an email bomb?
You figure there's like 4 people So like everyone knows everyone's business. You know what I mean? Like they know like
Small town.
Yeah, Cain they
Small
know
town,
Cain
yeah.
killed like his brother.
Yeah, don't
He's
fuck with this guy.
He's
man.
an asshole.
Yeah. So what would happen if somebody did kill him? Which I think gets like
If they killed him, then that what Cain did to Abel would be done sevenfold to them.
that's right.
So maybe like they would die and their son would die and his son would die and it would like affect them sevenfold.
All right, so that's the end of that story. Actually, Cain murders Abel, and then
So it's a tragedy. I mean, God creates the world in 6 days.
this dude fucks it up in one.
I mean, not even his mom fucked everything up, right? Like almost immediately.
What do you think really made Cain murder Abel?
Gangsta rap made me do it.
You don't know shit about gangster rap, so stick to that bullshit rap that you know.
All right, so that's where that story ends, and then they start talking about the beginnings of civilization in the Bible. Does Cain going out into the world, is that what prompts civilization to be formed? Like, is he getting his groove on? Is he making babies?
So we're not going to really read Genesis 5 because in our next episode we're going to skip ahead to episode 6 where we talk about Noah.
I'm still gonna read it though.
Yeah, of course. Read it on your own, but we're not really going to discuss it on the air. But basically,
I was gonna get help reading it.
In Genesis 5, it goes on to talk about Adam and Eve have more kids, not just Cain and Abel. So
I heard about
obviously,
Seth.
Cain and Abel are gone. They have more kids, and basically,
More kids or just Seth? There's more after
I
Seth?
think they have more kids.
Okay, well, you're jumping ahead. I don't know.
I think they have more kids. It's not important. It's basically it's a genealogy from Adam and Eve that's going to end at Noah. So it'll basically tell you, Methuselah fucking at 150 had Ishmael, and Methuselah lived to 900, and then she died. And then Ishmael had, Bertha. And so it's basically like a family tree from Adam and Eve, and no events occur, and then it goes straight to Noah. Right. And that is where we are going to pick up our next podcast, at Noah.
Yeah. I just want to really briefly say when he was talking about the generations. I actually, when Rusty came over tonight, I'm writing in a notebook. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm tracing the family tree of like Adam and Eve." So I actually wrote it out. So Cain did get married. He had Enoch, and then Irad, and then Methuselah, and then Methuselah, and then some dude. We have to talk about one more thing before we sign off.
His people became good at like certain things. Like his people became like, I think, good tillers of the land, and they like produced iron.
Somebody got good at playing a weird instrument.
Oh, the lyre. His people, yeah. So they were like musicians
or something.
So, I mean, who gives a fuck? That's all fucking stupid, man.
Wait. So I just want to talk about one more thing before we sign off. So you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 generations.
I mean, it sounds like Cain has a lot to be proud of, not for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he did right after killing his brother, which is weird. So this guy Lamech was born.
But in all fairness, we don't know his brother. His brother could have been a fucking insufferable prick too.
Yeah, and that was
like we don't know the circumstances.
Yeah, he was bragging about his. We don't know, but anyway, so 7 generations later, this guy Lamech is born. He has 2 wives, and he talks about killing somebody. Mm-hmm. And he mentions Cain and says, if Cain's the killer of Cain was sevenfold, I'm going to be 77-fold. Right. So did he kill Cain? And was Cain still alive after 7 generations?
I mean, maybe he's just saying, yo, man, I heard that fucking God made this punishment that blah, blah, blah with Cain, that anyone that fucks with him will have that shit done 7 times to them. Well, fucking, I'm more important than...
Oh, so you think that was a warning to other people? Like, you fuck with me, you got 77 times.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to revisit this. I wonder if that comes back up in the future. Probably not, though, right?
It's interesting. Yeah. We're going to find out.
All right.
So we will see you the next episode where we talk about Noah. Peace out.
Peace.